God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Finley's Friendly Appliances. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
He always does.
He always does. She always does. They always do. My name is Tom Catt, and I am joined by my fabulous co-host, the one, the only, Toni Homeperm.
That's me.
Today, we watched Maude's Reunion. Season 1, Episode 11, aired on November 28th, 1972. And what an episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know we keep on saying, that's been like a common theme with every episode. It's like, wow, what an episode. And Norman Lear and B. Arthur actually worked very closely together to make sure that just about every episode in the first season was heavy.
Yeah.
Was very heavy.
They were hitting on hot issue topics of the day.
Very much so. And this episode was no exception.
No.
It was no exception.
It was not.
Maud's old classmate Phyllis,
A.K.A. Bunny.
A.K.A. Bunny, also known as Mousy, comes to pay Maude a visit. From what the episode said, she looked Maude up in the yellow pages and just showed up.
Oh, is that what?
I think that's what happened. She looked Maude up, found Maude's name, and called her up. But I mean, it's a silly thing to say, but how would someone that you haven't seen in 25 years know to look up Maude Findlay unless Maude's maiden name was in the yellow pages?
That's an interesting question.
It's an interesting question, but regardless, this old schoolmate of Maude's shows up and is a...
Well, now let's start at the beginning.
Let's start at the beginning.
A
very good place to start.
Okay, it opens with Carol and Walter.
Carol and Walter are going through a lot of Maude's memorabilia.
From high school and college.
Yes.
They at one point, I wasn't really sure whether it was
high school
or college, but it turns out it was both. Because apparently Maude and Phyllis went to the same high school and college.
Yes.
It wasn't clear at first. I thought like maybe they were.
It was a little
confusing.
It was a little confusing.
Yes,
but they cleared it up in the end.
They did clear it up in the end, and they found Maude's. They're going through the yearbook, and they're somebody had written in it about Maude.
Then comes love. First comes love. Then comes marriage. Then comes Maude and a baby carriage.
With a baby carriage. And then, of course, Maude comes down because she was looking for her pom-poms.
Yes, because I don't know why the pom-poms were necessary, but she found them in a box marked Christmas.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And because she was a cheerleader, not only a cheerleader,
she was the captain of the team. She was the
cheerleader captain, and she's holding up her little.
Her little
jersey,
sweater.
Her
little sweater that has just a tiny little W on it.
Which she said at the time covered
her entire chest. And Walter says, well, now you got enough letters. Now you got enough room to spell it Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Yes.
I think my favorite line was her comeback to that saying, I'll remember that when you wake me up at 3 a.m. with one of your yes or no questions.
Right.
And again, that's a very big deal of the time because you would never hear a woman mention their sex life in a public forum like that.
Exactly. So now they want Maude to do a cheer. Carol is trying to coerce.
Insisting.
They want her to do her cheer, and she's going to be like, "Oh, I can't." But of course, Maude being Maude,
in true to form fashion, does not disappoint.
No.
And she gives a marvelous little cheer. That was one of my last videos that I uploaded to TikTok, and it has over 10,000 views on it and whatnot. And I was just like, how can we get that kind of what's the term I want to use here? How do we get that type of viewership on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram?
I don't know. I try, but it doesn't happen.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
So, Maude does her cheer and almost breaks her back in the process.
Yes.
Because, of course, we have to point out the fact that Maude is a very top-heavy person.
Yes.
And I think she even said that doing a cheer like that was much easier when I wasn't carrying around the Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Exactly.
And
then Florida comes out from the kitchen with
penance. With penance.
And
she does her own cheer, too.
Yeah, she does her own cheer, which is a little more
urban.
Funky. I think of it as funky.
Yes, funky.
But it was a good cheer. It was a
fabulous cheer.
And she says that they better not do one together because
they'll need earthquake insurance.
Yes.
I mean, both Esther Roll and B. Arthur were very stately women.
Yes.
They were large, but they were not fat.
No.
I would not call Esther Roll or B. Arthur fat, but I would definitely say that they were very large women.
Stout.
I'll accept stout. I'll accept stout.
Oh. Okay, so now Maude has to clear up for Carol because Carol sees that the name Phyllis. Maude's been saying Bunny.
Oh yes, Carol asked her, "I'm not finding Bunny anywhere in the yearbook," and Maude corrects her, saying her name is Phyllis Nash, and she's played actually by Barbara Rush.
Very, very glamorous actress.
Very glamorous actress. As a matter of fact, Tony said he loved her hair.
I did love her hair. I have to show it to Frank.
Yeah,
my husband.
You'll get it.
I need that hair. And Maude, of course, is now remarking how that Phyllis, she
was
had
not exactly the most attractive.
She had a wonderful personality.
Beautiful personality, big heart, nicest person you could ever meet. And then Walter goes, a real dog, like you wouldn't believe. And it only speaks to how good of a friend Maude is. It really does.
Yes, and now they want to know what she's doing, and Maude tells them that she's working for Avon. Funny story.
I need to hear it.
My mother.
I know you need to tell me.
My mother was an Avon lady.
For how long?
Quite a few years.
Okay.
She did,
Did she get the pink car?
No, she didn't, She didn't do that good. But it was funny, because her name was Yvonne, and she would, ring the doorbell, and she'd go, Yvonne from Avon.
I'm beginning to understand exactly where you get your hokey sense of humor from.
Yes. Absolutely. It's like built in there in the
It's
genes.
ingrained.
Yes. Now, I had to go with my mother. This was like before I think I was even in school.
Yeah.
And, so I had to go with her, and she didn't have a car. So she, walked all over the neighborhood, as far as she could. I remember, hitting all the doorbells, and I remember, we'd get home and, our feet were sore.
Yeah,
from
that
all
happens.
that walking.
And you lived in Jersey, yes?
That was in Jersey, in Garfield at the time.
What? How is that set up? Is it set up like a suburb? Is it set up
It was
like...
suburban.
Okay.
It was suburban. But I always loved when people would put their orders in, and then, of course... my mother would get the shipment of people's products, and I would have to help put the sort the stuff and put it in the little paper bags.
Okay, yeah,
and I think that's where
it started.
I think that's where it started.
That's exactly where it started.
Because they had these tiny little lipstick samples. They were only about an inch big, but it was like a little teeny tiny bullet lipstick. Fascinated.
She wanted them all to herself.
God, I did. I really did. I wanted those so badly.
In terms of makeup, I don't have a similar story to that. How I got started with makeup was my mother and my grandmother were... My grandmother was a hairdresser. My mother worked in her store. And my mother worked in my grandmother's salon when she had it. And... they were just very makeup-heavy people. They were very glamorous, heavy eyeshadow, heavy lipstick, powder, rouge, foundation, mascara, all that fun stuff. Eyelashes. And,
yeah, well, that more, natural, soft kind of look, I'm not having that.
Neither am I. I'm not about natural.
If the foundation is not full coverage...
I ain't about it.
Not interested. Not interested.
But it's fascinating how we like sort of grew into finding makeup on our own.
Yes.
Like it's almost like the makeup called to us.
Oh.
Like, come play with the pretty birds.
Called.
Come play.
And for me, it was like a cowboy on horseback with a lasso. Yeehaw! And just like pulled me right in.
Yippee-I-O-K-Y.
Yeah, you okay? Why?
So
Maude is telling them, you have to be nice to Bunny.
Don't ever call her Mousy.
Don't call her Mousy.
Don't call her Bunny.
She's feeling, she wants to feel sorry for her because she needs a poor little pathetic Bunny, not unattractive. And of course, the doorbell rings.
The doorbell does ring, and Maude is taken aback
because she doesn't know who she's looking at.
She doesn't know who she's looking at, and they have a nice little Maude Phil back and forth. And then as soon as Maude realizes it, she immediately calls her Bunny.
Bunny, yes.
Just forgetting everything that she said about not insulting this poor woman.
And Bunny calls her Chunky.
Which leads us to believe that Maude was heavier in her youth.
Yes. Although it couldn't be because that sweater was small.
That sweater was still small. Again, the continuity in the episode is a little jarring. But
yes,
I mean, even so, maybe that was the chunky size back in the 50s.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. That
I don't
sweater
think so
looked
either.
awful petite.
Especially on B. Arthur.
And, I would know petite. Because I am.
She's gherkin. That's what she is. She's gherkin.
Oh.
So it's apparent that Phil has had her teeth done. She's obviously had work done on her face.
Yes.
Because this is not the woman that Maude knows.
Remembers.
This is not the woman that Maude remembers.
And then Carol and Walter come in from the kitchen, and Walter is like
immediately turned on.
And he's like, this is Phyllis? He's stunned.
One of the things that I can say about the show is that they'll sometimes lean a little heavy on the trope that this person who has a very matronly looking woman, still be Arthur very attractive, but a very matronly looking woman, and you have this very attractive friend. So they're obviously going to play into the trope that the husband is interested in the attractive friend.
Right.
I never really cared for that, but I mean that was the thing during the 70s.
Yeah.
That was the thing during those shows.
Yeah.
It's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, it was sort of expected that, boys will be boys, that kind of thing.
It's a crock ball.
Yeah. That's
a crock ball.
That's what they did. Now, they start discussing what's going on, and Carol...
They start discussing Phil's career.
Yeah,
they start discussing Phyllis's career. And we find out that Phyllis is actually not... She doesn't only work for Avon, she's one of the vice presidents.
Vice president, right.
Which, big deal during the 70s for... A big deal, like, post women's lib for a woman to be a vice president or even a CEO of a company. And Carol is fascinated.
Yes.
And she's asking Phyllis all these questions while Maude is haplessly trying to tell Phil about their old schoolmates, how one became a drunk, their significant other turned to the streets, and how that same significant other turned to an axe murderess, and just going on and on trying to get Phil's attention.
And Phyllis is like, oh, how nice.
And Phyllis just turns to her like, oh, how nice is that? Isn't that nice?
Isn't that nice? Oh. And then I think Phyllis has to call the airport because she decides she's not. She was saying she couldn't stay.
She couldn't stay because she had to go to a meeting in Boston. There was a meeting in Boston for her. And she decided to call the airline, not the airline, but the airport, and have the company airplane just cancel her flight because she was going to be flying out later because she wanted to obviously stay for dinner with her friend.
And even though the company plane has a pilot, she
sometimes flies it.
She sometimes flies
the plane. Now, it's important to remember that while Phyllis is on the phone, Maude in the beginning of the episode, Maude hid a award.
Her Mother of the Year award from the Tuckahoe PTA.
In 1951.
1951.
In 1951. And...
Because she was afraid Phyllis would feel threatened,
threatened or hurt.
To see that Maude won this award.
Yeah. And
now
that Phyllis is on the phone talking about how wonderful she is and how wonderful this company is and how wonderful her career is.
VP and flying a plane and career.
Maude shoves
that award.
Shoves the award in her face.
My God, it was like...
It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
It was very embarrassing. So... Phyllis hangs up the phone, and then Phyllis and Carol start talking more.
She throws the award
and then
on
Maude throws the award on the floor.
Phyllis to notice it, and that's when she has to explain what the award is and everything.
Exactly. This episode deals heavily with women's role in society. It deals very heavily with women in the workforce. And, back in the 70s, that really wasn't the norm. Like, women were supposed to be doting housewives. There were never any career girls. There weren't career women outside of Mary Tyler Moore.
If anything, a woman would be a secretary.
Yes.
That was about it. If you worked for a company, you would be, as far as anything executive-oriented...
Yeah.
You weren't going to be an executive. You would be the secretary.
You'd be an executive assistant, which is a secretary.
VP or, a director or manager, whatever.
Yeah.
That was it.
We've come a long way since then. We now have a female vice president, so I don't want to hear nothing from nobody.
Exactly. Hopefully a president.
Hopefully a female president at some point.
At some point. Yeah.
The sooner that happens, the happier I'll be.
Yes. And of course now, Phyllis has to dash because she does have an appointment, so she's going to come back for dinner at 7.
Yes.
And that's when they start talking about that the graduating class, they all thought Maude would become president someday.
Yes. Even before that, one of the things that I love is I do love the relationship between Maude and Carol, because after Maude slammed the award on the floor, Carol just gave her mother this knowing look, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? You only just said, not 5 minutes ago, not to show this award to Bunny. And just suddenly now it's all
right in her face.
As Phyllis leaves, Phyllis turns to Maude and says, do you know our class thought that Maude would be the first female president?
Yes.
And then
after she leaves, Maude is like, poor Mousy.
Yeah. Poor Mousy.
Which Walter said, poor Mousy. More like Mighty Mousy.
Yeah, he says that. He does say that. But Maude is, again, just continuously feeling sorry for her friend, saying she's unfulfilled, she doesn't have a husband, she doesn't have a child, she doesn't have anything that makes a woman a woman.
Right.
And that's really the crux of this episode. What makes a woman a woman?
And I thought it was strange that Maude
of all people, would say these things.
Yes. I would think Maude being, a feminist for women's rights and women's lib and all this, you would think she would be so happy to see...
Well, she's... The reason she's not happy is because it's not her.
It's because she's jealous.
She's jealous.
We do know it.
That is apparent. She is very jealous of Phyllis and Phyllis's success. And it's apparent. Yes. It's very apparent. And
but it just seems strange for me to be
saying very out of character.
About, a woman needs a man, and
it's very out of character.
Yeah, that was like
very out of character.
I was surprised, that B. Arthur went along with that.
Yeah, but I mean, even so, like Maude was in the first season.
Yeah.
So I think they sort of needed a balance where, like, Maude would be this militant liberal feminist, but also giving her something to, like, anchor her to her past.
True. And
anchor her into her time period.
True.
And there's, in Maude, there's constant sort of back and forth between Maude's day and age when she was in her 20s, in the 50s and in the 40s and 50s, and now she's trying to be a modern woman in the 70s.
True.
So having this sort of conversation doesn't seem too far out of character, but some of the things that she said, I was just like, I don't buy that.
They're incongruous with the character.
Yes.
Although, we do have to look at...
We love that SAT word.
I know. I'm on fire. Somebody stop me. We do have to look at Maude's relationship history. Walter is the 4th husband. So, obviously, there is something in Maude's character that she does feel she needs
a man.
A husband.
And that conversation actually comes up after the commercial break when... Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that.
We'll get to that.
Because it involves Carol.
Mm-hmm.
And so, after Maude basically says to Walter and Carol, like, you two are so narrow-minded. Phil is just going on and on about poor Phil, poor Phyllis. And as soon as she's in the kitchen alone, oh, Phil, what have I done with my life?
Right.
Just immediately turning on its ear because Maude now regrets that she has done very little with her life outside of having a family and having a daughter.
Right.
I mean, outside of having a family and that's it, marrying 4 times.
Right. Yeah.
It really does speak to the character of Maude being a product of her generation, where she will just any hoozle beans.
Yes.
After the commercial, we open to dinner with Arthur, Carol, and Phyllis, just chat-chitting. Obviously, it is surmised that Arthur is there to sort of be a date for Phyllis.
Yes, I wanted to ask you, because we have yet to hear anything about Vivian at this point.
Vivian was introduced. Vivian was first introduced in Maude's Dilemma. We discussed that a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And Vivian and Arthur are just... They're within each other's universes, but they're not together yet. So they actually they get married in the 2nd season? I think later in the 2nd season. Because Maude tries to, get Vivian with somebody, and then she was also trying to, because Maude is very much like a modern-day Dolly Levi.
Yes.
Trying to put her hand in there and getting involved in everybody's affairs except her own.
Of course.
So she tries to set up Phil, I'm sorry, because I don't think she wouldn't piss on Arthur if he was on fire.
Right. Although I don't think, I never, there didn't seem to be anything implying they were trying to fix them up. I think it was just that they
needed another person
another
for dinner,
person,
another party at dinner.
I guess I think that's what it was.
I don't know. I'm unfamiliar with the trends of the 70s, but would you really just have somebody random not somebody random, but
you might
just come over to have a. But even so, that's still 1, 2, 3, 4. That's still 4 people. So why would you have the 5th?
Yeah, I don't know. Because Carol, doesn't count because she's family. So maybe I don't know.
I still think it was implied that Arthur was there as sort of a fix for Phyllis.
Could be. Although I don't see Maude wanting to fix Phyllis up with anyone really, but I mean Arthur up with anyone because
she's done it. She's done it later on.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, she was the one who got Arthur and Vivian together.
All right.
So there really isn't. In terms of the relationship between Maude and Arthur, there is a lot of animosity because they are just so polarizing.
Diametrically opposed.
Yeah, diametrically opposed in terms of their political ideations. But they are, Maude is still married to Arthur's best friend, Walter. Right. So there's going to be that sort of interesting relationship between the two of them.
True.
But yeah, so it opens with
Arthur is telling a kidney stone joke, and you can see that Carol and Phyllis are
disinterested.
Yeah,
they couldn't give a fig less.
Right, and and Arthur is saying that he shouldn't. I guess I
shouldn't be talking shop. Shouldn't be talking shop. Oh, but Phil, what do you? I understand that you work for Avon, and he mentions something about varicose veins, and it's like, Arthur, read the room, honey.
Oh. And Maude and Walter are in the kitchen. And Maude is interrogating Walter, basically.
I love that conversation between the two of them.
Yes.
I really do. I wish I could memorize some of the things that Maude had said, but Maude is again trying to compartmentalize things in her head. She's trying to triage how she's feeling. She feels sorry for Phil, but she also feels jealous for Phil.
Right.
She feels annoyed that her husband is so attracted to Phil.
Mm-hmm.
Just all of these emotions are bubbling and colliding.
And of course, she's jealous of how good Phyllis looks.
Yes, she's very jealous of him.
There's
She's
a lot
jealous of
going
Bunny
on.
in general.
She's jealous of Bunny in general. Her career, her life choices, and her appearance.
So Maude does something that I love so much. She will just go on and on and on this rampage, this tirade of hers, and then she will immediately say at the end, "And do you have any idea what I'm saying?" And whomever she's talking to will usually say, "No, I don't." And she'll say, "Well, neither do I."
Yes. She didn't know what she was saying.
She doesn't know what she's saying either.
She can't quite grasp why she's so troubled.
Yes.
She knows she's troubled.
She just doesn't know why.
She doesn't know why. Well, she does know why.
She doesn't know why. She just doesn't want to admit it.
She doesn't want to admit it.
She just doesn't want to admit it.
She doesn't want to admit it. So then, and she's still insisting that Phyllis's life is empty.
And Walter actually, again, has one of his more logical moments where he tries to reason with Maude, basically, explaining to her, this happens. It's what Phyllis wants.
Right.
And again, trying to logic using, I forget the expression that he used, but Maude ended up coming back at it with saying, "Is there any more to that?" So, Walter ends up, they both end up exiting the kitchen and
going out to the dining room. And Arthur is talking about Phyllis's schedule and just, how she's been to Paris. And of course, Carol is just
living. She's living. Carol is at this point a 28-year-old woman listening to a 40-some-odd-year-old woman being a career woman, basically.
Yes.
If I ever met at that age an older queer person that was very successful and very much in charge of their own destiny, I would be asking them all types of questions.
Right.
So,
that's also got to stick in Maude's craw that she sees Carol idolizing Phyllis.
Of course.
So,
because you're seeing your daughter now having a conversation with someone that you're still very unsure how to feel about. You feel jealous about this person. And it's a very interesting dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've very rarely seen on national television.
Yeah. Now, in front of everybody, Maude starts telling Phyllis, that shouldn't she be settling down? And Phyllis is like, well, the thought of that makes me want to throw up. And it gets kind of uncomfortable.
Tense. It gets tense.
Yes.
So Walter, being the brilliant mind that he is, suggests to Arthur, let's go back to your place and shoot some pool.
Yes.
And
which would be difficult since Arthur doesn't
have a pool table.
Yes.
Which actually Arthur mentions as they're exiting, and Walter's like, just get out of the house. I want to. Yeah. They need to have their time together.
Oh, we skipped. Maude was saying how the Slither-gadee. How Carol should take Phyllis up or she should wake Philip up so that Phyllis can see him all sleepy-eyed and how cute he is. And
again, I would be very uncomfortable if someone that I haven't seen in 25 years immediately said, "Go upstairs and see my grandchild."
Right.
That's very off-putting.
Right.
That's very, very off-putting.
Yes.
And
it's like when someone shows you the pictures of a newborn, and it's not an attractive newborn, and you're just like, they're darling.
They're so darling. They're so cute. And then you get a couple of months.
Is his head supposed to be shaped that way?
Was your husband busy that week? Did you actually invite the mailman in?
Or maybe you should have invited the mailman in.
You should have invited the mailman in.
So Carol says, she already saw Philip, and she did the Slither-Gadee, which I've never heard of that.
I never
heard of it.
You know what? I'm so thankful you said that because I was going to ask, was that a thing?
Never heard of that.
Oh, that was what I wanted to ask you. Completely, not exactly off topic. During that time period, were nicknames for husbands and wives a thing? Bunny?
The nicknames my parents called each other would make me have to put a mature rating on this show if I repeated that.
Oh, no. I mean, honestly, same with my family, same with my parents.
But not in my crowd. Maybe, maybe in more...
Maybe that was like a 50s thing.
I think so.
That may have been a 50s thing.
I think
like
so.
calling like Dickie or Shrimpy or just really giving them these really uncomfortable nicknames.
Yeah.
Punky being... How did Priscilla become Punky?
I don't know.
Like, I never understood that.
I mean, Frank and I sometimes we call each other Hun.
But that's a term of endearment. That's not a nickname.
No, it's not a nickname.
Like... I don't know. It's really one of those things that fascinates the ever-loving bejesus out of me because I'm just like, who started this trend?
I don't know. But so Maude says she has to show everyone how this Slither-Gadee has to be done
because in true to form fashion, Maude needs to be the center of attention.
She has to be the center of attention. She really could have been a drag queen.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
Very much. I think that's why I play her so fabulously.
Yes, I think so. But and of course she has to try to rub it in to Phyllis that she couldn't possibly know how to do the Slither-Gadee
because she's not a grandmother or a mother.
So
and again, it's a very tense and awkward situation because you have these two very strong-willed, strong-minded women.
Yes.
I even have it written down. It's the housewife versus the career woman.
Yes.
And, you obviously have the housewife who's trying to be like, you don't have a husband, so how do you know what it's like to raise a child? You don't know what it's like to raise a child. Not completely and totally ignoring the science about you don't need to be a mother to know how to mother somebody.
No, of course not.
And it really becomes it becomes an awkward time for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm.
Even me as a viewer, I was just like, this is uncomfortable.
Yeah. So Maude does this Slither-Gadee, and it was quite
entertaining.
Charming.
It was charming.
Yes.
It was just as charming as her doing the cheer earlier in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then Maude basically says to Phil, like, how do you know? And that prompts Walter to basically say to Arthur, hey, let's skedaddle.
Right.
Let's get the hell out of Dodge.
And Carol also says her good night.
And she was like so honored almost to meet Phil.
Yeah.
She was very honored to meet the woman. And I can completely and totally understand where Carol's coming from.
Right.
And of course, I mean, we never see Phyllis again after this episode. We never run into her again.
And now Phyllis is telling Maude, how wonderful Carol is, and Maude has to point out, but she doesn't have a man. And Phyllis doesn't buy it.
She doesn't buy it at all. And like you finally have what you're looking for. You're finally looking for the cat fight.
Yes.
You're finally gonna get Phil versus Maude in a knockout, slobber knocker type of situation, which in this house we support other queens most of the time. We support our people.
Mm-hmm.
And during the 70s and 80s, 90s, even before that, it was very much you wanted to see two women go at it.
Right.
You wanted to see two women fight, whether it was an argument or Dynasty made a fortune on the cat fights.
Yes.
Made a fortune on the cat fights. So we're finally going to get to have the confrontation between Phil and Maude. There's nobody else around, and Maude actually points that out. Like, we're alone now. You can drop the act.
Right.
And it's really a very poignant conversation between two mature women.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't, there were no clips, there were no, like sometimes there were, like, little jabs here and there, like when,
Well, the best thing was, Phyllis saying that she's had relationships. She's been with a 53-year-old tycoon. She's been with a 28-year-old beach boy. And you know, they continue, they're going back and forth, and Maude starts on a tirade, and then it's like, a 28-year-old beach boy? Is that, like, yeah.
How dare you?
Yes.
So it really, you know, it's an interesting conversation to have.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I wonder, I'm going to pose this question to you.
Please pose.
How would you feel if a friend from your past just, I mean, we have, because of the advent of Facebook, we don't know, we know everything that's going on in our friends' lives. That's just what Facebook facilitates. Like, we see all of our friends, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and how they're getting to where they're getting to.
Right.
But before the advent of the internet, how would you feel if somebody from your past had just come up and was a smashing success, whereas you were just stuck at home being a house husband?
I'm sure I would feel jealous. Honestly, though, I've looked at some of the people that I went to high school with, and it was funny. I remember
some of them peaked in high school, didn't they?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, it was all downhill after senior prom. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I was showing a friend a picture of a few people that I went to high school with, and I said, I want to. And I told him, I want you to look at this picture, and tell me, do you see me being in high school with these people? And I showed him the picture, and he was like, they look like they could be your grandfather. I was like, thank you. Thank you.
That's phenomenal.
It's, you know, it's unfortunate that a lot of, you know, it seems more of a straight thing to sort of just, you know,
peak in high school.
And sort of just let yourself go completely, and you know, not
the
really
best
care
years
about,
of your life have long since passed.
You know, not care about appearance or anything.
Give up
like
the
that.
ghost.
Yeah, and I was like, you know,
I had a long conversation with one of my very close friends, and we were chilling in my car, in the trunk of my car, and
you were in the trunk of your car.
Oh, stop it! And we were just going back and forth about who died because of drugs, who got pregnant out of high school, who got pregnant during high school. And just having this conversation with her, and it's like, wow, are we the success stories?
Who would have thought?
It's really very, very interesting to sort of have that conversation with somebody. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it still happens.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely feel it still happens. Like, if there's one thing that's eternal, it's high school and high school bullies.
Oh, God.
And how the bullies usually end up being these... again, they peak in high school.
Yeah. It's funny, because there was a post going around on Facebook, wouldn't you love to go back to high school? And I was like...
Absolutely
hell
not.
No.
Absolutely not.
High school was... hell for me.
I'd rather stick a lit cigarette in my eye.
God. You know, I'm sure for LGBTQ youth, it's still
horror.
It's still
an
horror
absolute
now.
horror.
I'm sure it still is.
Because of my size, I was not picked on. I was called names. I was definitely it was definitely called out that I was. Oh, hello.
Don't mind my landscaper.
And I think it was because of my size that I wasn't really picked on a lot, because I was the Hulk.
Right.
I was like almost 300 pounds. I was 6'6".
Wow.
I was not one to be trifled with.
No.
But even so, I was still very much I was still very much able to be my own person. And I don't know if my high school career would have been different if I was smaller, if I was scrawnier, if I was an easier target. I don't know. But I definitely know that I was picked on quite a lot, just not... No one picked a fight with me.
Right.
Like, I was picked on in other ways.
Yeah.
Just not...
I mean, I was called names. I was shoved. Nobody ever, beat me up. But, books, shoved out of my arms. And,
well, that's always
cute. Things
that's
like
cute.
that. And,
it's really adorable.
I was not treated kindly. And I was not physical at all. So Jim was
a nightmare.
Torture for me.
Jim was a nightmare.
Torture. Except for when we did square dancing.
I
reigned supreme. Oh, I could do-si-do like nobody's business.
You still can.
I still can.
You still can, Connie Francis.
Let me tell you, probably out of everybody, I mean, I probably can rock the stilettos better than anybody in the entire class, including the women. Including. So
I tell you, I had the hardest time with swim class.
You had swim class?
Well, not swim class. It was part of gym class. Like because the school had an in-ground Olympic-sized pool.
Oh my!
We had to
have that.
Oh, it was tragic.
Oh.
It was very tragic. Just because I was very awkward when I had to take my clothes off. I didn't like being naked. I didn't like showing that much flesh.
Right.
And of course, seeing everybody getting changed in the boys' locker room, just like, I need to get the hell out of here as soon as bloody possible. Just because you're also seeing guys that are like on sports teams. Mm-hmm. So they're relatively physically fit, and you're trying not to stare, you're trying not to let your hormones get the better of you. And it was a lot. It was definitely a lot.
There was actually, I remember one semester where I knew if I got to gym into the locker room as quickly as possible,
you could just get in and out of clothes as fast as possible.
No. There was this one guy who I knew would be coming out of the shower. I could see him naked.
Wow.
And I was like...
Here I am, being awkward, getting out of clothing, and then there's my darling co-host, Tony, who's just like, I want to see the naked boy.
Oh, yes. Yes, he was like, because I think I was like, I think I was a sophomore, he was a senior. Oh, and it was like, and he was like, he was very, for a senior, he was quite well developed, very, very manly, full hairy chest and well developed physique, and I got to see it all.
Like divine and
but I had to make sure I got into that locker room. Like I was like aching for that belter. I was like ran out of that other classroom to get into the locker. I swear to God, I was mad.
What a burden you are!
My Lord.
You're such a damn burden. I mean, I get it. I do get it. I understand.
Because don't forget at that time, it's like, there was no thing like, you didn't have the internet or anything. I mean, the only thing I had that was visual was the Sears catalog, the underwear section. I mean, that was all I had. And then to, see that in the locker room, it was like, sweet mystery of life, at last I found you.
Suddenly,
yes.
Life has new meaning to me.
Yes. That's exactly what it was like. Oh, my Lord.
Oh my goodness gracious. I'll tell you, there was actually one time I was heading, I think I was coming back from the pool, and I just saw one of my classmates just standing there butt-ass naked, and I'm like, don't stare. Just don't look. Don't look. Don't look. Just walk away. Just walk around them and get as far away from them as possible. And then I look at pictures of them now, and I'm just like, holy Toledo.
Oh.
What happened?
They peaked in high school.
Oh, well. That's just...
tragic.
Is it, though?
Yes.
Sometimes I think they deserve it.
Well, that too. Yes. Very true.
Sometimes it just is
works
the way.
out that way.
Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be.
Oh.
So,
So they're looking at the high school yearbook, and Maude points out about Gloria Ferrelli. Now, she's attractive but no chin. And I think she's the one who wrote the thing in
wrote in Maud's yearbook. Then
First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes Maude with a
baby carriage.
And Gloria Phyllis tells Maude to turn the page already.
Gloria and Phyllis, are we on the Golden Girls?
I know, right? Gloria and Phyllis. Yes, it could be.
Gloria.
Phyllis tells Maude to turn the page because it's like she's over. She's over
She's
angry.
She's over the conversation.
Yeah,
she's actually like, you can tell that.
Yeah.
That she was
pissed. She was pissed.
She was pissed.
Yes. And Phyllis, says that Maude is feeling sorry for her, because she's leading the life that Maude could have had.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then she starts telling her that the reason that she's done so well is because she would say to herself, like, what would Maude do?
What would Maude do? And then she'd do it.
Yeah. And that's how she...
and Maude is just like, really? Like,
yeah.
Does that work?
Right. Yes. And at this point, Maude is letting it all out. She's saying, she's 47 and she has nothing to show for it. And she's crying.
The mask comes off.
Yeah.
The facade comes off. There's actually a point in the episode, I have it written down, where Maude she slips up. She slips up and she becomes a victim of her own BS.
Yeah.
Like Phyllis catches Maude in like the big lie that Maude is trying to tell. Like, you need to have a man to be successful. I'm trying to remember where the heck it was.
Oh.
But it was definitely earlier on in the episode where
yes.
Maude was just going on, and Phil was like, this doesn't sound like the Maude that I know.
Right.
Like, it becomes apparent that first and foremost, Phyllis held Maude in great stead.
Yes.
Like, definitely put Maude on a pedestal. Like, this woman was so, like, take no guff from nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And, that caused Phyllis to be the success that she is today.
Right.
And Maude, I don't think, can believe that.
Right.
I don't think Maude can believe that without, like, saying, that's a lie. That's an absolute lie. I don't believe you.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she does it in melodramatic fashion.
Of course. How else could she do it? How else could she do it? And they actually both start crying.
Yeah, because, Maude was saying how she doesn't want to... She would never give up her life to have Phil's. Phil would never give up her life to have Maude's.
Yeah.
And then they have a moment where they just,
Well,
cheers to you, Chunky. Yeah. Cheers to you, Mousy. And that still stung Phyllis.
Yes, but they do acknowledge that there are elements of the other's life that they do envy.
Yes.
So Phyllis says that she sees Maude with like a great guy like Walter, and she says sometimes she sees a man that she probably thinks well, what if I could be married to what if I was married to this person, or maybe she even thinks what if I had married when I was younger and did had a family and all this, because obviously at 47 it's not
difficult.
It's difficult,
especially during that time.
Yes,
like nowadays a 47-year-old, that's young.
Yeah,
a 47 years. Some of them are even getting started in new careers.
Yeah.
And, I really commend people who have reached a certain age by societal standards, where they'll do something completely and totally out of the norm. Mm-hmm. Like at 47, you're thinking about retirement. Yeah. You're potentially thinking about, like, moving someplace, or just, you already have your roots.
Right.
At 47, you already have your, I just gotta chill. I say that because I've been talking to a guy who's in his late 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And just having those discussions with him, it's It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a lot because there's so much pressure put on an older generation of person.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of pressure put on all generations,
Mm-hmm.
but I do feel that at a certain point you just have to say, I'm not going to let the pressures of society dictate my life.
Right.
And I feel like that's sort of the conversation that Maude and Phyllis are having.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, just because you're 47 doesn't mean you can't find a career in something that you love.
Right.
As a matter of fact, in later episodes of Maude, she ends up becoming a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
And she ends up becoming a manager of her office.
Right.
And like that's such a big deal to think about. Because this woman who is now, I think that was season 3, so she's 50 at that point.
Right.
So to sort of try and have it all at a certain age is a big old fallacy.
Yeah.
Because you can have it all almost at any age.
True.
It really is determined by the old expression. Some people have greatness. Some people are born great. Some people have greatness thrust upon them, and some people. What's the other one?
Oh. Wait.
It's a really old expression.
Yes,
I can't
remember it now.
Born great, thrust upon them, and some people I think are given greatness as a gift.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. And just the big takeaway here is that it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how young you are.
Right.
You can do whatever it is that your heart desires. You can do whatever it is. Like Tony, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Tony can do that person that he saw coming out of the bathroom all those years ago without a problem.
No, my husband would kill me. And
probably him too.
Probably he probably doesn't look anything like what I'd want at this point.
You never know.
You never know, but
you never know.
I have a strong suspicion.
You have a strong suspicion. Female intuition.
Female intuition. or Facebook stalking.
Facebook stalking.
It's the same thing. Female intuition and Facebook stalking. They're interchangeable.
They are very much
interchangeable.
Yes, they are. They are interchangeable. So, the big climax for the episode is, after all is said and done, Maude being okay with her life, Phyllis being okay with her life, they
admit that they want it all.
They want it all.
They want it all.
They want it all.
They really do. But
they want the career. They want the family. But I mean, that's a very difficult balancing act.
Yeah. To
have a family and a career.
It wasn't. Nowadays, that it's
very feasible. It's very doable.
But it's like, nowadays women are told, you can have it all. You can't, you can have everything you want. But 1972, you were not being told that as a woman. You were not being told, oh, sure, you can have a career, you can have a family. No, but back then, coming out of the 50s and 60s, it was like, well, if you have a career, you can't have a family.
You can't have a family.
And, and the traditionally, like, if a woman was working, once she got pregnant, that's it.
That's the end of the career.
You'll be staying home with
and
the
now
baby.
you have women in the United Nations having babies and then like going to full term and then bringing the child with them to the United Nations because that's just how it works now.
Yeah.
And I think that's wonderful.
Yes,
I am going to say this. As a matter of fact, there's the same episode where Maude becomes an office manager. We find out that there's a wage disparity.
Oh.
That Maude is only going to be making $7,000 a year compared to her male counterpart who's making $9,000 a year.
Yeah, see?
And we're still climbing over leaps and bounds. That's still ongoing.
There's still
there is always wage disparity between ethnicities and races. There's disparity between the sexes. It's just
not to mention the plain fact that the minimum wage is a joke. Who can live on the minimum wage?
You're going to make me angry.
I'm going to make you angry. But it makes me angry.
We still have a $7.25 minimum wage. What is that? What is that? That's pennies.
You can't live on that.
That's change you find in the couch.
You can't.
No one can live on that.
No one can live on that. You can't. You certainly can't buy a house.
Nope, not at all.
You can't even rent your own apartment.
Nope. You can literally save that up until you're ready to move out. But by the time you save up enough money, you're already in your 40s with that type of wage.
And as I pointed out, the term minimum wage the minimum wage is there to prevent companies
from
paying less.
From paying
Because
less.
they would pay you less.
Listen,
if they could get away with it.
If it wasn't for certain types of laws and whatnot, people would still be hiring children to do the labor.
Oh God, yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
that's an absolute fact.
Absolutely,
and it's really sick. Like this country is sick with capitalism, late stage capitalism, not just capitalism, late stage capitalism.
Yes.
And it's such an absolute headache. And I know we're getting a little preachy, but something's got to give, man.
Yeah.
Something has just got to give where we're going to actually put the working class ahead of the billionaire class.
Yeah.
Like, tax the billionaires, tax the churches. Tax the churches. Tax the churches, damn it.
Tax them.
Just tax the billionaires more.
Speaking of churches, I've heard this many times that it's rumored that the Catholic Church, which preaches that abstinence and as far as married couples should the only birth control they should be practicing is the rhythm method. You know what they call women who practice the rhythm method, don't you? Mothers. But I've heard rumors that the Catholic Church actually has stock in birth control companies.
That doesn't surprise me.
But
they're
telling their constituents, it's a mortal sin to use birth control. I
have many opinions on the Catholic Church. I have many opinions on corporations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, we're due for another revolution. We're due for another Bastille Day.
Oh, God.
Last of the Everglots.
I think I have a Marie Antoinette costume I could pull out.
Why not?
I know Frank could do the wig.
I know Frank can do the wig without hesitation. He would do it without hesitation.
All right, so we end up, it's at the end. Maude's in the kitchen. Walter comes in.
Before we even say that, seeing Maude in this gorgeous, orange jacket situation, her gorgeous pants, like this, and over that, wearing this ugly, dark puke green apron.
Yeah.
Like, some of the choices that the costume department made, I'm like, what are you doing?
It was the 70s. It was all those earth colors, avocado green, harvest gold, the orange. No. That was the palette.
Sorry.
That was the palette.
That's great for eyeshadows, not great on a person.
I know.
So she's cleaning the dishes. Phyllis has been sent to Boston. She's doing her thing.
She went back to
the
hotel room.
She went back to the hotel room, not to Boston.
It's important to note the hotel room.
Yes. Phyllis went back to her hotel room, and Maude is cleaning the dishes, doing the domestic stuff, and then Walter comes in, and they're going back and forth about sort of the conversation that Phyllis and Maude had, like.
Right.
I understand that this is Phyllis, this is who she is, this is who I am. Like, she poses to Walter, like, do you regret me not having the sort of life that Phyllis has? Mm-hmm. And Walter says, no, I regret that I'm not in the hotel room with Phyllis.
Right.
Which immediately sends Maude to start hitting him with the rag and hitting him with the paper towel.
But of course he's like, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
And that's I actually saw a meme recently, basically saying I am so thankful that this present generation has made it has sort of done away with the ball and chain spouse joke. Uh-huh. Where the spouse is no longer considered a ball and chain, no longer considered a oh God, what is the word I'm looking for here? a hindrance, not an inconvenience.
Oh, an inconvenience.
Considering the spouse an inconvenience. Like,
Okay.
you know how in like sitcoms past you'll
Yes.
have the jokes like, oh, my wife. Oh, if only I had somebody younger.
Take my wife,
Yeah,
please.
take my wife,
Penny
please.
Youngman.
Exactly. Those jokes are like on their way out.
Right.
Which I'm very thankful for.
Yes.
Because they're just so nasty. They're so nasty. Listen, if you're with somebody, you're with them because you love them.
Yes.
You're with them because you want to be with them. You're with them because you want to support them. They support you. Like, that's the type of relationship that I feel more people should want to be in.
Right.
Not this sort of like marriage of convenience.
Right.
That we see so much of in Maude. Like that one episode where Kara was basically going to marry her friend.
Yes.
That would be a marriage of convenience.
Right.
And that would be a sort of like, oh, lugging this spouse around,
Right,
all
right.
that fun stuff.
Right.
But nowadays, like, you see people really genuinely in love with each other.
Yes.
And I'm thankful that our generation is sort of working towards, well, my generation, not your generation.
Not my generation.
My generation is sort of working towards that idea that you get to be in a relationship, you get to have a marriage with your significant other whom you love and adore.
Right.
And that's how I feel on
We
the
can
subject.
hope.
We can we can hope is
We
right.
can hope.
I'm sure that relationship still takes place in, red states.
Oh, yes. I'm sure. I'm sure.
But that brings us to the conclusion of another episode of God Will Get You for That, Walter. If you would like to follow us, you can at God Will Get You for That, Walter on Facebook,
Yes.
Finley's Friendly Appliances on Instagram.
Yes.
You can also email us at finleysfriendlyappliances@gmail.com.
Yes, they can.
If you would like to follow me, you can at thattomcat.com. I am on all forms of social media as thattomcat. And if you would like to follow this beautiful creature next to me, you can at...
Well, on Facebook, it's Toni Homeperm. Toni with an I. And, of course...
I'm going to get that tattooed on your forehead.
Oh, no, I don't do tattoos. ToniHomeperm.com.
I need to visit TonyHomeperm.com.
Please visit
I
her.
need to... I need to see what it looks like. No, because I want to get ideas for my website, because my website is very plain right now.
Mine is okay. I can probably tweak it more, but it'll do for now.
And if you would like to continue to listen to us, you can on, where are we? On
We're
Apple.
everywhere.
We're YouTube,
everywhere.
Buzzsprout.
Amazon, Buzzsprout, YouTube.
All of it. We're everywhere.
Yes.
Pay us. Pay us, that's all.
Sponsor us.
Sponsor us.
We'll throw in an ad.
We will! We'll do it happily.
We'll happily.
And we will see you on another episode of God Will Get You for That, Walter. Bye, guys.
Good night.